Thank you, David. I'm glad our speaker today is Jennie Loomis, who will tell us about the critical effort to save Missouri's initiative petition process. Jennie Loomis is a field captain in Jefferson City for Respect Missouri Voters. She has been involved with them since attending a virtual town hall last April. Jennie was at the Capitol on September 10th, 2025, when Respect Missouri Voters launched their signature gathering campaign to save and strengthen the citizen initiative petition process in Missouri. Jennie is the mother of five, a local arts organizer, huge supporter of local libraries, and an active participant in local and Missouri progressive politics. If you've been at a rally at the Capitol any time in the last year, there's a good chance you've seen her there. Jennie has a degree in history from BYU, which I believe is Brigham Young University, and 15 years of experience as a homeschooler across several states. Welcome, Jennie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys making time for Respect Missouri Voters today. It's important work we're doing today. Should I just charge ahead? All right, excellent. All right, thank you so much for being here today. As you are probably familiar, Respect Missouri Voters is a cross-partisan, volunteer-led grassroots campaign with a mission to stop power-hungry Missouri politicians from attacking the will of the people and taking away your power. I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with this, but I'm going to do a brief overview of what we're doing and why before I get to a campaign update, and then we will have, I think, plenty of time for questions. So like Kathy said, I've been with Respect Missouri Voters for a fair bit of time now, and I've been impressed with the dedication and the passion and the clarity of this project. So I'm going to head along with this summary of it. So the U.S. Constitution guarantees our freedom to petition the government without interference from the government. More specifically, the Missouri State Constitution states that all political power is vested in and derived from the people, that all government of right originates from the people, and that is founded upon their will only, and is instituted solely for the good of the whole. If you've ever voted in Missouri, which I assume you have, you've seen questions like these on your ballot, like Proposition A or Constitutional Amendment 1. All ballot initiatives have to go through a process to make it to the ballot. The legislature puts most of them there, but a few are put there by citizens working together towards a common goal. When politicians fail to do their jobs or represent the will of the people, the initiative petition process allows the people to take direct action.
Jennie, we're not seeing your slides change.
Oh,
We're
shoot.
still on slide 1.
You are still on slide 1.
So we missed the Constitution one and the third one.
Thank you for telling me that. The slides are moving for me.
There you go. There's the
okay.
First Amendment. Good. That
Okay.
worked.
All right. Well, we talked about that one, so let me.
Oop, now it went half screen. There we go. Missouri
Okay.
Constitution, Article 1. Thank you.
Okay. No, thanks. I guess I'll just have to maybe do a little toggling. So you let me know if that happens again, please. All right. So yeah, we just talked about the kinds of things that you'll see on these. And then I'm just going to go over there. We see in that initiative petition steps on your screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right. So there are 3 basic steps to an initiative petition. 1, you write a law or amendment. 2, you collect enough valid signatures to qualify for the ballot. And then 3, you get voters to vote yes. Unfortunately, in the middle of this process, the Secretary of State writes the ballot language. So to stop an initiative that is popular from passing, they often use deceptive ballot language to manipulate voters. Historically, a lawsuit could lead the courts to rewrite the ballot language to be fair, accurate, and unbiased. In 2025, however, the legislature passed Senate Bill 22, which made the process of challenging ballot language in courts much more difficult. This year, the Missouri State Supreme Court struck down Senate Bill 22 on a procedural technicality, but politicians have already worked on getting another very similar piece of legislature passed again. It just passed the House this week as HB 3146 and is now before the Senate. And then I just want to give you a brief summary of how this is described by the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition. So HB 3146 would eliminate checks and balances by blocking courts from remedying ballot summary language it has found to be insufficient and unfair, instead sending the language back to the Secretary of State for multiple additional tries. The bill also shortens the time frame for resolution of ballot summary language challenges, allowing partisan actors to run out the clock with multiple bites at the apple. So then there are additional amendments that have been added, trying to prevent the people from having final control of what goes on the ballot. So I actually went to the hearings to testify against this particular bill, and all of the people there opposed to it were there particularly protecting voter rights. And the people for it were primarily going to be benefiting from like a partisan reading of the law. So what this would do would make it so that the Secretary of State gets 3 chances to rewrite the language instead of letting a judge rewrite the language if the Secretary of State is found to have written it in a way that is manipulative or deceptive. And so they just keep giving the Secretary of State try. And then you would have to say, no, we don't think that's right. You sue again. And it just draws out this legal process. So it draws out how many chances the Secretary of State gets to determine the language, while shortening the length of time that someone trying to bring a petition forth would have the ability to take legal action against it. So what this would effectively do is run out the clock on getting the initiative petition in by the assigned deadline, which is, of course, again, determined by the Secretary of State. So it is, it's pretty destructive, and call your senators, I guess, call your state senators, because it is bad news.
I think we're a couple slides behind.
Are you not? Oh, that was just me. That was me paraphrasing that.
Oh, okay.
So we're still on the same slide.
I was looking ahead and I thought, that's where we are.
No, I just had a couple of extra notes on that. Okay, so now we're to the citizen initiative. Okay, so this is a summary of how we've been using it. So for 117 years since 1908, Missourians have had the constitutional freedom to take matters to their own hands when legislators fail to do their jobs. It is how we, the people, have our say in the laws that we live by. Missouri is one of 26 states that uses a statewide initiative, and we are one of only 11 states without any law preventing the legislature from overturning the will of the people on initiatives. So by the numbers, the Missouri House of Representatives has 163 members and the state Senate has 34 members. That means that the House only needs 83 votes and the Senate only needs 18 votes to overturn the will of nearly 6.5 million Missouri citizens. We've studied what other states have done to secure their initiative process, and we've used that to shape our initiative, our constitutional amendment. That should switch. So there are 2 types of initiative petitions, and the different rules for the kind of signatures that are required. So if we want to make a constitutional amendment, it is determined by the number of votes for the recent gubernatorial election. I apologize. And so what type of initiative? So a constitutional amendment has to collect signatures equal to 8% of the votes cast for the governor in 6 congressional districts. Once an amendment is passed by the voters, there is nothing stopping a majority in the legislature from placing the same issue back on the ballot in an attempt to get voters to undo what they just voted on. This is typically where the tricky ballot language coming from the Secretary of State comes into play. But at least in that situation, when it's a constitutional amendment, the legislature has to bring it back to the people for a vote. So we at least have a chance to battle of it. Again, it only takes a handful of politicians to undo what hundreds of thousands of Missourians fought for and then millions voted for. But it's a possible thing. But when we're proposing a law, that requires only 5% of the voting population to sign a petition to get it on the ballot. But currently, as the law is written, a simple majority in the legislature can just overturn it without any further input from the people. So it doesn't even have to come back for a ballot vote. It's just something that the Missouri legislature says, no, thank you, and they just do whatever they want. So this initiative petition process also includes the veto referendum to block legislative action. We use this process to allow proposed district maps to go to a vote for the people. So in 2024, Missourians voted to raise the minimum wage and guarantee workers the ability to earn paid sick time. In 2018, a strong majority of Missourians voted to amend the state constitution with Clean Missouri, which was an anti-corruption and fair redistricting amendment that ended gerrymandering. Isn't that crazy? We won this battle 8 years ago. It also banned lobbyist gifts from offering gifts over $5. Before that, there were no limits. Politicians could accept gifts on trips, tickets, fancy dinners. There was no financial limit on it. And the people used the initiative petition process to get these issues placed on the ballot, and citizens responded by voting in favor of them. I think you will find universally people believe that politicians shouldn't be allowed to get bribed. It's a very popular American idea. Unfortunately, our laws did not protect us. So in 2025, the legislature overturned minimum wage and earned sick leave by gutting its most important provisions. And in 2020, the legislators put their corrupt version of the Clean Missouri amendment back on the ballot with confusing language, which is typically known as ballot candy, which tricked voters into overturning what they had just passed in anti-corruption laws for our legislators. So remember, they were and still are able to take these steps to overturn the will of the people with just a simple majority vote in the legislature. And like we talked about, that's 83 in the House and 18 in the Senate, which is just a tiny amount of people. So far in the last 16 years, the legislature has overturned 7 citizen initiatives. And we're going to talk a little bit about how difficult those are to do and how easy they are to overturn. But going back further in our state's history, we can see that this is not a new issue. It isn't a partisan issue. A similar attack on the process happened in the 1980s under Democratic legislative control when voters passed the Hancock Amendment to limit taxes. Republican Governor John Ashcroft vetoed the bill, defending the ballot initiatives as a crucial voter freedom. He criticized politicians who attempted to take away voter power. But it's happening again under today's current supermajority. When politicians don't like what the people vote for, they try to take away our power. So you should have on your screen kind of a summary of Amendment 4. The fight to protect citizen-led amendments is urgent because the Missouri legislature is working hard to eliminate it. This year alone, the legislature is considering 10 different bills, all aimed at trying to make the citizen-led ballot initiative process harder for voters to use. We'll see a measure on our 2026 ballots. They still have not indicated which voting cycle, whether it's August or November, that they're planning on putting this on. But they are trying to undo our process with their own ballot measure, and legislative measures do not have the same rules. This legislation again contains ballot candy to make it seem like the vote is about preventing foreign money from entering state campaigns, but that is already illegal. It will appear on your ballots as Amendment 4, and it is dramatically increasing the number of votes needed for an initiative to succeed by requiring them to pass in all 8 congressional districts instead of 6. And 5.3% of voters under these conditions could block a citizen initiative from passing, fundamentally ending majority rule in Missouri. The actual constitutional language for Amendment 4 even borrowed our language because we began this before they started writing this. They called their amendment the Protect Missouri Voters Amendment to deliberately confuse people with our Respect Missouri Voters campaign. So what can we do about it? That is what we've been fighting for the last year. We want to protect this for another 117 years or longer. So we have been working hard to gather enough signatures for the Respect Missouri Voters Amendment to qualify for the ballot and get it passed in 2026. These are our policy goals. Our constitutional amendment will ban partisan politicians from deliberately using misleading ballot language to trick voters. That feels like crazy that you have to say that, but we're going to make it so they're not allowed to lie on the ballots. Two, it will ban new laws that would make it more difficult for citizens to gather signatures or pass initiatives at the ballot box. So they can't just make up new rules to make this even harder to do, like raise the percentage and the number of congressional districts it has to clear. And three, it defends majority rule by requiring support from both parties to send any changes back to a vote of the people. So this would mean that instead of 51% being able to say, we don't like that law, we're overturning it, or we don't like that constitutional amendment, we're going to rewrite it and lie about it and put it back on the ballot, it would mean that they have to get an 80% supermajority vote as a legislative body in order to put something back on the ballot for people to vote on again. It would make it obviously much harder to clear an 80% threshold. They would have to have bipartisan support instead of a 51%. In discussions on how to write this, we debated whether we should have a time limit in which they're allowed to come back to the people with a similar amendment or an adjustment. And that got struck down because if there is seriously an issue that the voters have somehow missed and all of the politicians can say, oh, we think this change needs to happen, we're not trying to limit the time in which they can do it. The only limitation would be their ability to get together, agree that it's a real problem, and then bring it back to the people with an 80% supermajority. So here are the details of the Respect Missouri Voters Amendment. It would secure the will of the people going forward. Number one, requires all ballot summaries to be clear, unbiased, fair, and accurate, and easy to understand so Missourians know exactly what they're voting on. Two, it would preserve our century-old freedom to petition by prohibiting any new laws that make it harder to gather signatures or pass initiatives because it's already very difficult. And three, it defends the majority rule by making it harder for the legislatures to undo anything we pass, which I just described. Here's a couple of things our amendment doesn't do. It does not limit what initiatives can do, and it does new initiatives can still change past initiatives. So there is still flexibility in how the laws can function, depending on the future needs. Respect Missouri Voters launched in December 2024 and has now more than 15,000 supporters. Are you seeing this just kind of a timeline of events? I think you are.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. So in January through March, we held 25 town halls across the state, beginning in Rolla, where everyday Missourians gave input. Probably a lot of you were involved in that. We held policy summits in April and July of last year, getting further feedback from more than 3,000 Missourians who helped shape the amendment we're gathering signatures for, and we polled on ballot language and consulted lawyers. I remember voting on what final language we wanted to use, and then we started gathering signatures at the Capitol on September 10th of 2025. I was there. It was a fun day. We have to turn in all the signatures at the beginning of May 2026. That is our primary obstacle right now and the hurdle that we are working hard to overcome. And then the next step is getting voters to vote yes, which most people, when they understand what we're fighting for and how it really is cross-partisan and it really is to benefit the majority, whatever that majority votes for, most people, I think, are supportive of it. So by the numbers, we have had almost 1,400 volunteers across the state gather a record-setting 160,000 signatures from voters in every county in Missouri. This is the largest number of signatures gathered by an entirely volunteer force in the history of the state of Missouri. Recently, our volunteer force has impressed larger organizations who are now providing paid gatherers to help us, which is what I'm going to talk about next. I understand you might have questions about this, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. Volunteers will continue to be the driving force of our campaign. They are absolutely essential. I am volunteering. You can see Monica on your screen. Monica is volunteering. Nearly every person you interact with who works with Respect Missouri Voters is a volunteer. Although we do have a few paid positions, which is really just because this is time-consuming work, and you'd have to have no job at all to be able to do this full-time. This slide says it's now or never. So on this paragraph, I'm just going to read it for you really quick, that this is an excerpt from an email that got sent after a February all-hands meeting we had. We have always been and continue to be grassroots. 90%, 98% of our contributors and 78% of our money is from Missouri. This movement is truly of, by, and for the people of Missouri. And it's time we remind the politicians and special interests in Jefferson City that government is supposed to work for you, for us, the people. With time ticking down, hundreds of volunteers voted at our February all hands call to hire more staff to help gather enough signatures in time to qualify for the ballot. Okay, so as I've already described, we had an all hands call, which means that everyone who wanted to join in the call who volunteers with Respect Missouri Voters was invited to join our call back in February and talk about the pros and cons of potentially hiring paid signature gatherers to help us reach our goal. Because, like I said, this has been volunteer led all along. Then we held a vote. I was on the call. We talked about how important it is that we get this amendment on the ballot before it's too late. We're already facing multiple legislative assaults on the citizen-led amendment process, as well as the essential destruction of our ability to succeed at passing amendments in the future with the legislative amendment 4, which will be on the ballot this year. We love that this is a local volunteer-led movement. We've gathered more signatures than any volunteer force in Missouri history, and we've already got 130,000 of them verified. We're really proud of our work and very grateful for our volunteers. They are still the driving force in everything we do. But as our signature deadline is approaching quickly in May, it really is now or never for saving our ballot initiative. We still need tens of thousands more signatures, so we overwhelmingly voted to hire help. There were roughly 100 people on the call, and only 2 voted against hiring for it. Something I have really appreciated about Respect Missouri Voters is that they are constantly putting it to a vote. They are constantly saying, here are our options. Let's weigh in. Let's talk through the pros and cons. Here's what our lawyers are saying. Here's what we're facing as a potential threat from the legislative session. And so we really are talking these through and making decisions as a group based on that information. So one of the organizations that has decided to help support us is the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations. The acronym is the AFL-CIO. They are now endorsing us, and some of the support for paid gathering is coming from them. They are the largest federation of workers' unions in the United States. And the way that paid signature gathering will work with Respect Missouri Voters is 2 parts. So one, we're still overwhelmingly volunteer led, but we are hiring, we have hired a group called Fieldworks that hires people to do paid signature gathering. They're going to be collecting in congressional districts 1, 2, and 5 for now, and then potentially moving over to 3, 4, and 7, but we won't pivot until we've wrapped up making sure that we have enough signatures in each district, right? Because we have to get 6 congressional districts. We have to get them gathered in these districts. So we're focusing on the ones that we're confident that we can get the number of signatures in. So we'll have Fieldworks, which is a company that hires people to do it. And then there's also the option to do internal hiring directly through Respect Missouri Voters. We've started hiring for help with that within Congressional District 4, and we're looking at potentially Congressional District 7 among volunteers. So if you are already volunteering with Respect Missouri Voters and you're interested in giving it more time and getting paid to do that work, you can look into that on our Respect Missouri Voters website. Fundraising is still tied to all the messaging that you're getting from Respect Missouri Voters, and we need that money to keep things running. It's sort of a keep the lights on funding. It pays for the technology that we use, our messaging system, doing a subscription to a mass messaging and mass emailing. It costs money. We're paying for the printing of all these petitions over and over again. We printed lots initially, and then the Secretary of State didn't like the way something was done on it. We had to reprint all of those petitions again. And we have just a couple of paid full-time employees, but everything else that we have is volunteer. But that's what we're raising money for. We're raising money to get this over the finish line before we lose the opportunity to in the future. So with that in mind, it can seem like having paid help is an easy solution to getting this over the finish line, but it is really just a piece of the puzzle, and we still need every volunteer we can to help make this work. We only have 7 weeks left to collect the remaining 130,000 signatures. Currently, we have about a 70% verification rate, like that's 30% on average of the signatures get rejected for one reason of another. When politicians show they're unwilling to represent the will of the people, we have to fight extra hard to make sure they don't take away our ability to represent ourselves through citizen-led amendments and laws. So if you care about preserving majority rule in Missouri, we could really use your help. There are 3 ways that we need help the most. These would seem to be the most effective ways for helping. Number 1 is to gather signatures. The best thing you can do is get qualified to gather signatures and get out about 2 hours a week. Our goal is for each canvasser to gather somewhere between 20 to 50 signatures a week. I know that the ability to do that will vary largely on the kind of event you're at and the size of the town where you live. I've had times when I couldn't get near that number in a 2-hour period, and another where I got 34 in an hour and 40 minutes because of the environment that I was in. It's really easy to do that. You can go on our website and do the training. It's like a 20-minute training and then a very brief, simple quiz afterwards. And then you could look on our calendar of events and go pick up the supplies you need at a notary event near you. You can sign up for days of action. We have St. Patrick's Day parades coming up, a mega canvassing door knocking event March 21st through the 22nd. And then statewide, there are No Kings protests scheduled all over the place on March 28th, which I think is a very friendly environment to help save voting rights. And then April 7th, also on the calendar as a polling place, because there will be local elections for something. So if there is a local election near you or you're willing to travel to a place hosting local elections, we can gather 100 feet from an entrance at a polling place. That consistent gathering is really important. The second important thing we need help with is to recruit gatherers. Call your friends who care about this and recruit their help to gather signatures. Many hands make light work. Number 3 is to do phone banking. This is especially great if getting out and walking around like either crushes your introvert soul or is just physically challenging or too time consuming. Virtual phone banking is when a group of people join virtually, like we're doing right now, from home at a designated time. We're calling people who have already signed up to volunteer with Respect Missouri Voters. These are not cold calls in a sales environment. You'll have a script, a list of people to contact, and a specific ask for those volunteers. And when our virtual phone banking is strong, more signature gathering volunteers show up. That is getting us as many as 3 times more signatures when we have had effective phone banking. We have scheduled phone banking going on 3 times a week right now, and the current schedule is on our website under newsletters. Like if you go across the top, it'll say news, and you have a drop down, and you hit newsletters. The top left one is always our most current newsletter, or you can check your emails. It might be in there if you've subscribed. A volunteer can train you how to do it on the spot, and you do it from home with a computer and a phone, but you do need both. It's not something you could effectively do just from one. All right. So the citizen initiative process is already very difficult. As a reminder, we have to get roughly 300,000 signatures to get an amendment or a law on the ballot. We require thousands of hours of volunteering and fundraising. Politicians only have to get 51% of the legislative body to put something on the ballot. And when the Secretary of State is the same party as the supermajority in the legislature, they have an extra advantage because that person is writing their ballot language for both citizen-led and politician-sponsored amendments. The Secretary of State also has authority over which signatures get validated. Every citizen-led initiative is fighting an uphill battle, no matter how popular it is. And the battle for Respect Missouri Voters Amendment is extra important because it will make every other future fight possible. Thank you so much for your time and consideration today. I hope we can count on your help, and I am happy to answer any questions you have to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Jennie. I still don't see any media people on our listening group, but our recording will go up, and we'll certainly invite them to form that. I think we might start by asking Monica to introduce herself, because her face and her name is kind of familiar to us, but she might want to say something with regard to your presentation, Jennie. Monica.
Regarding Jennie's presentation, Jennie is awesome and amazing. Can we all
Yes.
agree on that? She's just amazing. I'm Monica Lee. I know many of you guys, and I've been a member of Boone County Democratic Party for several years, as you guys know. I took a role of Mid-Missouri Field Director for this Respect Missouri Voters. As you learned from, Jennie's presentation, this petition, this amendment is critically important for this state, and especially all the attacks happening. Amendment 4 is already on the ballot. It's really now and never, and that's one of the reasons so many volunteers are working very, very hard to make this happen. So, and that's the reason I took this role, and I just hope that, more people join. We do need more volunteers. One of the things is that many volunteers have been working week after week for several months. So we would love more help, and the more help will definitely help us get to our goal line.
Thank you for those words, Monica. Now to your questions. We've had a little discussion about this. There's a lot of complications and details that Jennie has given us here, so I'm sure she'll welcome any questions for clarification there. I had some interaction with her about, some what ifs and maybe what will happen and then what will happen. And she warned me that she might not be able to answer those kinds of questions. So you're welcome to ask any question you want, but realize that this is a hot, right in the moment kind of thing happening now. And to ask for clarifications of future contingent decisions is probably asking too much. So Jennie or Monica, when they answer, can feel free to say, we can't tell yet, or we don't know yet, or this is above my pay grade in the organization. Let's see. I have some already in the chat. Alice asks, what is the final date? I think you got that. And she also asked if you're aware that, whether the major cities have covered their signatures, maybe. And locally, the information that Jobs for Justice, another organization, has 6 individuals working on this full time. April 19th is the last day to collect signatures, says Monica.
Could I answer that? That's our last designated date, but we're going, that's our last official date, but Earth Day happens a few days after that. So we will be out
We'll get a few
gathering
more
at Earth Day events, but we're trying to get them all in because we need to turn in verified signatures by May 6th or 5th.
Yeah, you need a couple weeks.
So we need a little time because those have to go through a verification process. So we'll be as much down to the wire as we can, but we're hoping to be all done by April 19th.
And notice that Monica put in the chat, when are the weekly training and notary present? Every Wednesday at 6 to 7, every Saturday 3 to 5 at our own Boone County Democratic headquarters. Dave Taylor says this is probably the most important amendment that we're voting on in our lifetime. I mean, he's remembering those others that actually could do something, and now the danger that will be taken away. And then here's one that might be going on this kind of what if problem. Any danger that the courts could rule that this initiative addresses too many multiple things? Usually that sort of charge comes up immediately. I have had a vague memory that previous court decisions ruled that amendment initiatives can only do one thing at a time. Has this been dealt with, or do you feel confident about this, Jennie or Monica?
I think that's a great question. And I think that when we planned this with all of our meetings back in April and July, that it didn't seem to have been a primary issue because these things are so intertwined, right? If you separate who writes the ballot language and then the thresholds and all of the things, I think that they really go together But that is a good question, and it so far has not, in my experience, in any of our conversations, been raised as one of the primary concerns. The primary concerns are the constant legislative assault on our
Yeah.
ability to do them at all, not whether or not this specific amendment clears. Although I guess there's always the possibility that we actually get it passed and then they try, you know,
I
that.
would call that more than a possibility,
Yeah,
but
very real
but
possibility.
but your presentation is of a pretty clean effort here, and you got
And
to
you can
try.
look at the full bill, because obviously what we put on here is the summary of the ballot language, because like the legal language is single spaced, a page and a third, and it kind of just uses the constant commas and run-on sentences that legal language does. So that's on our website, and I would say go take a look at it and read it. It's even in that legalese language, it's really not that complicated.
I don't think your website appeared so in our chat yet, so maybe Dave Taylor can get that in. It's probably pretty simple, like RespectMOVoters or something like that. Yeah, RespectMOVoters.org, Monica says. Well, then let's hear a language from our audience, from Herb.
I would like to take a
Okay,
chance
Monica.
Sorry. I'd
Okay.
like to take a chance to explain about how many more signatures are needed. Just want to make sure we're not recording, right? We are not recording.
You're still looking for people to help.
We are
We are
being
not
record-
recording the meeting right now.
Yes, we
Yes,
are
we are.
recording the meeting.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
We're
So,
recording.
anyway.
Well, I don't want to put it as a just, like come recorded statements, but I just want to make sure that 300,000 signature we are targeting is really, really way above the number that we want to just make sure that we get this petition happen. So some people say, oh, we are way lower, we're not even close to the goal or anything like that. That is not the truth. So we just want to make sure that we are hitting the highest number possible, that we want to make sure that petition will pass and put it on the ballot. So we are very close. I think the 170,000 something verified signatures are needed. So we are not that far away, but we want to make sure validity rate is 70% or 80%. Considering that we're gonna continue to add, and we're gonna continue to target 300,000 signature, but it's not that we are really, really way far away. Just want to confirm that. So
That's encouraging.
Yes, Jennie explained that some percentage, was it 10 to 30 somewhat, might be disqualified in the process. And so you have to shoot for a number that is much larger than the threshold needed.
yeah, the country validity rate is like 70%, which means 3 out of 10 get rejected. So
Right.
that's how much we are just making a room for.
Right. Some of those are, of course, repetitions. I always have to watch. Have I signed this one before? When I go,
Correct.
it's
Yeah,
and then I'm sure many people. I'm sure I have signed one that I did before, just forgetting. So they have ways of catching those kinds of things as well, or as something that just doesn't come out looking right to the inspectors who are doing it. So a good 30% over what you need
Yep.
is involved here. Okay, very good. Now, Herb.
You mentioned that you are concentrating efforts at this time on 6 districts. The other 2, who are they? Which districts, and where are they? And are you doing preliminary work in those districts in case you need them or plan for the general election?
I think Monica might be able to answer that question better, but I can pull up my notes. Is it 3, 5, and 7, or what was it?
We are not targeting 6 and 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. We are targeting. So 6 and 8, we are not targeting. At
And
this
where
point.
are those districts?
Congressional District 6 and 8.
Yeah. What cities are
sorry.
those?
Oh, I can't tell you offhand.
I do know that we are focusing on, we need more gathered in the Springfield area, and that we're working hard in the Mid-Mo Columbia area.
6 and 8 include the Boot Heel and far northern Missouri, the 2 most conservative areas of the
I
state.
see. Yeah.
makes
Are you
sense.
doing
They don't include
preliminary
any
work?
major cities.
Sorry, go
Are
ahead.
you doing any preliminary work there at all?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, I think we have people volunteering. If you live in that county and are volunteering, we are absolutely saying, please help us get out here, but we're not going to focus any paid efforts in the area that seem like maybe lower population concentration and least likelihood of support.
The critical area we need most help is CD4 because CD4 is really just that the collection rate is still very low. So CD4 is a targeted area, focus area, and Colombia is one of the critically important place because we have both CD3 and CD4. So that's the reason that Respect Majority Voter campaign has been heavily supporting and focusing efforts in Colombia.
I just want to make sure it's clear that she's saying CD4, and that means congressional district. It can sound like city, but it's CD, so congressional district.
Correct. Yeah, congressional district 4 is the area that we need most help with.
You're muted, David.
When you mention those congressional districts, you're talking about the maps that are current, not the ones that the Republicans want to use in the fall.
Which is why you'll notice on our petitions, we left all congressional districts blank because they could say, oh, you put the wrong congressional district and invalidate all of those.
Oh, oh, I don't even want to ask that question. Maybe Kathy will.
I think you cut out, so I don't know quite what the question was. At least I couldn't hear it. But anyway, my question, I guess, first of all, I'm puzzled that we're having so much trouble in Congressional District 4. Are you meaning the more rural areas, or what areas are we having difficulty getting signatures in, and do you know why? And also, the other thing is, if you could address a little bit more why signatures are rejected.
I know some. I'm going to start with the rejected part. I think Monica might be able to speak more to specifically for. There's a chance. But so some problems with signatures are like, so I live in Jefferson City, and if somebody wrote Jeff City in their address line, which is what most people in Jefferson City write, they got rejected. If they didn't write the full name Jefferson City, even if they were a registered voter and had their zip code, and Jeff City got rejected. If you accidentally signed for your the wrong county, like if you're a college student and you forget that you're registered to vote in your home county and you signed a county where your current address is, your signature is struck. And then if you've accidentally signed twice, obviously, because there was some confusion. If you sign something in September and then somebody approaches you again in March, and there were 3 or 4 petitions out gathering, we had People Not Politicians, we had an education petition, there was a healthcare petition, and then there was us all out like at the same time gathering. And so if you're like, I know I signed something and you can't remember, then we say, okay, do your best. If you are pretty confident you signed it, definitely don't sign it again. If you're not sure, sign it. They'll strike it down. Better to have you just in case. So those are some of the things that get people strike. Or if perhaps if handwriting is illegible, that can be difficult to verify. So I think it's overwhelmingly, it will be mistakes about where people are registered to vote or abbreviations. Also, like obviously everything we're doing is in black ink because anything written in blue is struck down.
Yeah, they try to find as many reasons as they can. So if you forget to add the name of city, that's get rejected. And St. Louis is either city or county. If we just say St. Louis, that get rejected because it's not, you didn't specify city or county. So they find all sort of reason to reject the signature, and that's the difficulty we have.
And then you had asked about the difficulty of District 4 in particular. I'm not 100% sure. Is that the one that's like kind of stretched out? Do we cover a lot of geographical territory with District 4?
I know, yeah. I added a screenshot of the CD4, so it's just weirdly cut. In Colombia, it's cut up half away, and anyway, above north of Broadway is CD4 in Colombia. But there's other part, I think Sedalia and Warsaw.
But I think you've asked
Lebanon.
if what was causing a problem. I don't think there's been any particular resistance to it. It's just a matter of getting the volunteers in the right places at the right times.
Yeah, and then the
So
Columbia is the largest city in CD4. So you can see that there's other rural, smaller area that we just don't have enough volunteers to collect signature and don't have any support is the reason.
If I'm
Monica, I
correct,
think it's really,
CD4 is South Columbia, right? No,
Isn't
North,
it north? Yeah, I think
North,
north. Yeah, yeah.
North Columbia. Okay.
Sorry, Cassie.
let me just comment that I think it would really be helpful if you would say Congressional District 4, because I think there are acronyms are one of my pet peeves, and I think not enough people know what the acronyms are. So I just think it's really helpful if you say Congressional District 4. That's just
I will.
a
Yeah,
thought.
yeah.
Uh,
Since we have two sets of maps, that's already confusing
I
enough.
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. And they trying to redraw it, so it's
Well, I
it's
will
hard.
ask the
Yeah.
question. I will ask the question now. You have to anticipate that one set of maps for congressional districts or the other set of maps will be used when they evaluate this, that you have to score score a victory, whether no matter what set of maps is used.
I think that for our petition gathering purposes, because those maps have not become law yet, we're operating from the prior
Prior.
lines. That's my
Yeah.
understanding.
That's
But that's why we left the lines blank in case they become law before this hits the ballot or before it got approved, because we don't know what was going to happen with that.
yep, yep. And that's the reason why we need as many signatures as possible to cover all the possibilities and what could happen.
Yeah, a bit more than usual in this
Yeah,
case.
a lot
Okay,
more.
a couple more hands up. Dave Mallory.
Thank you. It's a bit of a side, but can someone explain to me why the new districts haven't become law? I thought they were approved by the legislature and they're legal now, but they were being challenged. But are they not yet legal?
Being
Why aren't they?
They're being challenged. Supreme Court is weighing on them right now. So I think that, sometimes a law becomes law. Like, I think you have to hold on until the challenges have played their legal course. So I know they had a Supreme Court hearing on Tuesday, and there was a lot of people showing up in support of that with Missouri Jobs for Justice, but they did not make a ruling yet.
Also, we had a previous guest talking about this timing,
Been
and
approved,
she reminded us that
can't go into effect.
you can't make a change while there's voting in process, and there's now voting in process for the April 7th municipal elections. So the first time to imagine something might change, be pushed through, would be right after that. So we'll check with each other, in mid-April to see how this is going, whether they can get those new maps on in some way, or whether the challenges will have halted them past that time. So I would hold off on that question until, say, April 10 or so. Might have more to say at that point. I wish we could answer these questions a little earlier, but I don't think we can. There are too many things that can happen. Marie.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that in addition to the case that Jennie mentioned that was heard in the Supreme Court, which we're hopeful about, I just saw this morning, I guess, another court case, and there have been multiple ones brought against the redistricting. In another court case, the judge declined to overturn it based on the argument that the new districts are sufficiently compact to meet the legal standard, which baffles me. But my question has to do with I'm going to be an optimist here and assume that this gets on the ballot and that it's going to be on the November ballot and that Amendment 4 will be on the November ballot. So my question has to do with strategy to help whether there will be coordinated campaigns to get people to vote for this and against Amendment 4. Because if the public doesn't understand which is which or doesn't understand that there is some overlap there in some of the provisions, we could end up with inadvertent mistakes made in the voting booth. So
100%.
do you know what the plans are for a coordinated campaign?
I know there will for sure be a coordinated campaign about it. And when we are gathering signatures and I'm talking to people, I say, watch out for that language when you see your ballot this year. Watch for Respect Missouri Voters. They borrowed our language. They're trying to trick you. So I know it's a thing that we're already planting the seeds of. I do not think they can both be on the same ballot, but they still have not told us. I mean, ours isn't on yet, so they can't assign it. Right? Like we have to clear the legal hurdles still. So they cannot assign ours a ballot, like a vote date yet. Theirs, they have not told us or they haven't decided when they're planning on putting it on the amendment on the ballot. But I don't think that you can have two directly conflicting ballots on the same one. I don't know, Monica, maybe I'm incorrect.
Jennie, I believe Amendment 4 is already slated for November election, so it's already put into November election. In terms of that Amendment 4 and Respect Missouri Voters, definitely we have a big plan to educate public, so that's the next step. As soon as we complete our signature collection, we will move to the next stage of educating people about that. And then there's a possibility that's very possible both of them could be on the ballot. If that's the case, any amendment that gets more votes gets selected is what we heard. So that's the reason that the education will be very, very important in the next days to make sure they vote no on Amendment 4 and vote yes on ours. So yeah, that's in the planning.
Thank you for that clarification. I think it might honestly be an advantage to have them both at the same time because it was very confusing. What happens if ours passes in August, but theirs is still on the November ballot, or vice versa? That like what?
And then if they are very tricky, they could put it in August and put the Amendment 4 in the November just to make things complicated. So who knows? Yeah.
Thank you, Monica.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, people are thanking you guys for that clarification. I do think a couple years back we did have opposed questions on on one ballot, but maybe they passed a law asking that not to be done anymore. All these things change so much and make it difficult, even for us, people who do this a lot, to keep track of what's going on.
You guys are ahead of me on this. I just saw a comment from David Taylor saying that they had done a similar thing with cannabis. So that was just me being incorrect. I've only lived in Missouri a couple of years, so I'm playing catch up on how all of the things function. I appreciate the correction.
I think we might have gotten Dave Taylor's other question figured out. It says, will the Secretary of State word it so that no means yes and yes means no? Yes, I mean you've got to get through this to change that so that they can't do that. That's one of the points of your measure, I think, of your initiative measure, is to keep that from happening. Okay, I think
Dave had an earlier question in the chat, I noticed. If a person accidentally signs the same petition more than once, does that disqualify all of that voter's signatures or only
just one, I think.
Additional ones?
Yeah, just one.
Just one.
Before we submit the signature, we have a verification center that's going through all signature, and that's the things that we have. St. Louis Verification Center going through all the signature right now, so they will catch if there's multiple signatures. And that's the thing I tell people, like, if you're not sure, it's okay to sign twice because we'll catch it. It's a problem if you only intentionally sign multiple times, 3, 4, 5 times. So if you accidentally sign twice, that is not the problem, not the big issue. Yeah.
So that's good. Your advice is, if I can't remember, go ahead and sign again, but don't do it a third time. Try to remember what you signed for. God
Absolutely.
knows it's been complicated recently. I hate to go to the farmer's market and have to face those decisions. Have I signed this or not? You know, and I hate to say no if I really want to sign, of course.
Right.
Kathy, another question.
Why don't you take Peter's question in the chat first, because I don't understand it.
I don't
Yeah,
even.
something about the October 15th
Oh.
date.
What is October 15th date?
I don't know.
So for PNP, they've excluded all the signatures gathered before October 15th. Is there a problem like that for this one, or they're going to accept all the signatures gathered whatever date?
Yeah, we didn't have, that's a great question. We didn't have the same issue as them because People Not Politicians started gathering against signatures against the gerrymandering prior to it becoming law, before the governor signed it into law. So they had so that was what the legal argument was, is like, you can't sign a petition against a thing that doesn't exist. So that was a specific to them issue, but for us, this was a broader election.
Yeah, and also, People Not Politicians referendum that has a different rules, and that's the reason why it's going through a lot of the legal cases of, what is right, who can do that, and all those things. This is petition process, citizen-led petition process. As Jennie said, Missouri has had this process for over 115 years.
People Not
17 years,
Politicians
117
is
years.
also an amendment petition, right?
Correct. Yes. Citizen-led amendment petition.
To stop
But
the gerrymandering.
it's a referendum on because the
Not
legislature
politicians.
passed a law, and then it's a referendum to repeal that law. So it is, as Monica was saying, it's a different.
People Not
process in
Politician
some
gerrymandering was referendum, not the petition process.
But also not a constitutional amendment.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'll ever get all those distinctions straight in my mind, but I can see that there are procedural differences. Kathy, do you still have a question?
Actually, it was an observation that Jennie made to me that I wanted to share, because I think it's important for what we need to do in terms of educating voters. She said there was a woman that was not comfortable with signing or not willing to sign the petition because in reality she trusted politicians more than citizens in making decisions for Missourians. And I think that is becoming more of a common problem in our society. People feel like they're so busy and so taken up with making enough money, with taking care of their children, living their life, that they don't want to be bothered with these decisions that they might have to make about preserving democracy and preserving our right to vote. And I think that's something that we really need to be aware of when we're educating people about the need to vote yes for these important issues on our ballot.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Also, the Respect Missouri voters also have been focusing on the language to put clear, fair, unbiased ballot summary. So even if you don't agree with, we don't want them to overturn, maybe I trust their overturning or whatever. But do you want to see clear, fair, unbiased ballot language that they don't deceive you and they're not trying to trick you or things like that? So we find that that's also very good language to, the argument to put to, signers, hey, would you like to see this petition will require clear, fair, unbiased ballot summary.
That's a good point, Monica. And I would love to piggyback on what Kathy said. It was an interesting conversation I had with this lady. I was trying to gather signatures at I think November election. And I said, would you like to help stop politicians from overturning the will of the people? And she said, well, sometimes the people make bad choices. And I mean, it wasn't the time for a lengthy conversation about whether you believe in representative democracy, but I think it is worth, and this is me speaking as myself, not as a specific representative of Respect Missouri voters, but I would say it is worth, I think, taking care to build regular human relationships with our neighbors and the people in our community, because it is troubling that someone would trust a stranger with an ideological bent more than they do the neighbors of their state. And I think the better we get at getting to know the people in our social circles, then the more trust we have with each other. And it really does take getting, I mean, you were probably all pros at this. I have been in this neighborhood for a little more than 2 years now. And just last week, I put little, it sounds weird, but I put little bags of sugar inside cute little gift bags and wrote a note. And I said, hi, I want to be the kind of neighbor you can borrow a cup of sugar from. And I put my name and my phone number and my address. And I said, like, please, let's be friendly neighbor, and I started with 6 and I took my youngest kid so it didn't look like I was trying to proselytize a religion to anybody. And I just think it really does take this like constant daily effort of knowing the people in our community so that they trust us instead of something they saw on a talking head. And because it really is troubling that we don't have trust in each other, or that there is this growing sense of fear towards one another. And I just think that when you meet people on the streets, real life, face to face, if your tire is flat, they're going to help you, And I think it's affirming to talk to people in person and real discouraging to look at online discourse. So we got to be out in these streets talking to people face to face.
Dave Taylor has put a message that the Ashland Optimist Club breakfast meeting might want to have an update. I'm imagining that Monica might be able to help him with that, or one of her
I would just
contacts.
add, if you are in any sort of other organization, like if you're in the Ukulele Fight Club at your library or Master Gardeners or any other thing that you participate in, ask if you can take 5 minutes at a meeting and present this and gather signatures.
Of course, Ashland would be in Congressional District 3 rather than 4, but
take them. We'll take them.
Yeah, still good.
But who knows?
Still good. We'll take it. Yeah.
Okay, we have gone over time. I don't see any more questions in the chat or else or otherwise. And I want to thank our own local Monica for all the excellent work you do, often with some of us, and our special guest Jennie from the statewide group today.
Thank you.
I wish we all knew what was going to happen and how it was going to happen, what it was going to mean. What I really love is that, and this is, again, I think, a good comment on that person who said, let those politicians decide. This has not been a simple thing. This is not a misguided thing. This is a thing that has been your Respect Missouri Voters group has taken every bit of care to think through this, to look at the past experience and to come up with what I think is a clear vision. If you're allowed to go ahead and put it on the ballot and make it happen, let's see that happens. Everybody do what they can. Thank you so much, our guests today.
Thank you.
Thanks
for your time.
We'll ask Pam to get the announcements up, and while